Okay, so let's look at having a loop, but in this case it looks like we're going to write an application named enter uppercase letters. They've given us the code stub on that. Let me separate this. And ask the user to type an uppercase letter from the keyboard. If the character entered is an uppercase letter, display OK. If it's not an uppercase letter, display an error message. The program continues until the user types in an exclamation point or exclamation mark. Okay. All right, let's do this. And I want to do this. I like to use Visual Studio to write this out. It's a little faster, gives me a little more help. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting my code in here. So let's see. Ask the user to type in an uppercase letter from the keyboard. All right, let's start there. So data types. A data type, a character and even though a character and a string are related, a string is nothing but a string of characters. They are different data types. So that's something that needs to be remembered. So I'm going to create a data type called, I'm going to be typing in a letter. And then we've also got a data type called a string that we want to put in. And I'm going to call this input string. By the way, let me test this and make sure everything's working okay. And gives me a green squiggly line, which means that I've created these data types, but they're not being used in the program for anything yet. All right, so debug, start debugging, and let's just check and make sure everything's running okay. And building, and there it works. Okay, so everything's working okay. Let's go ahead and continue on with our code here. Now we're going to enter a loop where we keep going until we put in the exclamation mark. So that's a character data type. That's a character data type, and I'm going to call it stop loop. And I'm going to go ahead and assign the exclamation mark. Now, you notice that I put this in single quotes. If this were a string, I would put it in double quotes, but in C#, single quotes for a character. All right, so now let's prompt the user to enter something. So I'm going to do not console write line, but I'm just going to do, I could do, oops, tab. I could do console write line, but one, I don't really need to type in console because I've got it here in my using statement, and I don't need write line, I just need write because I want this. I'm just prompting the user to enter something, so I want to keep this on the same line. Enter an uppercase letter, a space there, and now, and I could put this on the same line if I wanted to. I could say, yeah, I'll put it on the next line. Input string, there it is, tab, and read line. Okay. Um, okay, so it's going to prompt the user, enter an uppercase letter, and then it's going to pause, and then the user will enter in some character and store it into input string. All right, so what else do I need before I start my loop? Oh, it's not going to like that. Okay, so it's going to input a string, but input string is okay, but I told you that a string and a character are different. So I'll show it to you this way. Letter is a character data type. What if I try to assign input string to character, and it gives me that red squiggly line? And if I hover over that, red squiggly line, it says it's not going to be able to, cannot implicitly convert a string into a character. So whatever is stored in string, it cannot convert that to a character. So I need to help it out a little bit. So I'm going to, there's a method which will do that. And so if I say convert to character tab, and then in parentheses I can now put that input string. Alright, okay, I think that's it. So now we're ready for our loop, to where we can ask the user over and over again until they type in an exclamation mark. So in our loop, I'm going to use a while statement. While, and if I want to, I can do the tab key twice, and it gives me a little coding stub, which saves me a little bit, but not much. Okay. And for our condition, and conditions evaluate to be either true or false. Whatever we put between these parentheses is going to evaluate to be either true or false. We want to say if the letter that was typed in, if that character that was typed in is not equal to, and then again in single quotes, exclamation mark. If it's not equal to exclamation mark, then go ahead and execute this code. And here's a little algorithm which will help. I'm going to create a code stub for an if statement. And I'm going to say if the letter is greater than or equal to uppercase A. Now, greater than or equal to A, what does that mean? Well, characters can be represented by numbers, and A is less than B. So if A is, say it's represented by the number 65, B would be represented by the number 66. Okay, so if the letter is greater than or equal to A, but we want to keep going, and we want to say and ampersand, oops, and letter is less than or equal to, and then in single quotes, and I'm going to do capital Z, whoops. Now, lowercase a and uppercase a are two different values. In fact, let me go get a chart. I'm going to pause and go get a chart, and I'll show you. Okay, I went and got an ASCII chart. So the value of A, decimal value of A is 65. So if I go down here to Z, the decimal value of Z is 90. So if letter is equal to or greater than A, and also let's make sure that it's not, if we kept going, then we'd get into all these other characters and we don't want those. And if it's less than or equal to Z, which is 90. Okay, so that's all that's saying. Let me go back to the coding window. And oops. And let's see, so if it's a letter between A and Z, then we want to write that W, whoops, and what do we want to say? Display OK, and then we display OK. And what if it's not? What if it's not between those values? And if it's not an uppercase letter, display an error message. Okay, continues until the user types the next one. Okay, so if it is an uppercase letter between A and Z, display OK. And again, I don't need console in there. If else, and I should really put this between parentheses. If I only have one line after each one of these, you'll notice that people don't put in curly braces, but it's always a good idea to put in curly braces. In this case, I'm going to have more than one line. So I'm going to say, and if it's not between, if it's not a uppercase letter, then I'm going to say CW. I'm going to say not an uppercase letter. Okay. Okay. I guess that's all I need to say. Okay, so I'm done with that if statement. So now that I've done that, what I can do is that I'm ready for this again. So I'm going to put all three of these lines here at the bottom of my loop. Control C, and I'm making sure that it's inside of my while loop, but I'm going to put these three lines in there again. Okay. And then it's ready to, well, I think that's it. Let me see. We'll see if that works. Okay, so debug, start debugging. So debug, start debugging. And enter an uppercase letter. Click on here and make sure it's gonna, and nope, nope, okay, okay, nope, nope, and then exclamation mark and see if we exit the loop. Yes. Hello world. All right, so looks like it's working okay. I think that's all I wanted. I don't need this anymore. Get rid of that. And I don't need this. I'm going to copy this code over. I'm going to copy this code over. I don't need the read line. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't see. Okay. That's interesting. And it's got a green squiggly line under the stop loop. What I should have done, instead of put the exclamation mark there, is that I could put in stop loop. And I got rid of it. I'm guessing it's still going to work okay. All right. That's going to do it. I'm going to copy this over and test it. And I'm guessing it will be okay with that. So I'm going to, let me see if I got this. I'm going to end the program right there. I'm going to end this video right now. Stop.